Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the second lecture on online mode. The subject is change management, and the topic for discussion for today is organizational change drivers and performance. As the topic already indicates, the discussion agenda for today's lecture is drivers of organizational change, and we are also going to discuss about the effects of organizational change on performance at the individual level and the organizational level. Now, the most common drivers of change for the organization are economic forces, changing customer needs and preferences, technological forces, increased global competition, rules and regulations. Well, the economic forces are the strongest forces for change. If there is a recession, a company may have to lay off workers. This requires restructuring. A merger or takeover also means total reorganization and changes in corporate sector. Well, in times of recession, as we have seen in the last decade, the world faced a very strong recession, and due to which corporate sector faced a financial crunch, and because of that, the companies had to limit their business. They had to lay off their workers. They had to cut short the size of their employees to the manageable size. Even the bigger multinational companies working in different countries had to limit their businesses to the country of origin only. And this was because of the financial crunch. This was because the buying power of the people went down, and it had consequently an impact on the sales and revenue of the corporate sector, which actually had made the companies suffer a lesser loss, or in most cases the deficit. So it is a kind of a driver of change. Whenever recession occurs, the company has to go for economic reset in order to manage or to cope up with the changes in the market. It is the strongest external pressure which actually causes the change within the organization. It actually leads to the restructuring of the organization. And the other thing which I wanted to tell you here is that in the times of the recession, the smaller companies which cannot sustain or survive the pressure of recession are compelled to merge themselves with the bigger companies, with the giant companies. So the giant companies actually who have this strength to sustain or maintain themselves in the recession occupies or buys the smaller companies, and this is a kind of their a mantra for development. This is the kind which a kind of a blessing for them in disguise. But again, you have to be very strong in order to survive in the times of the recession. But it does change the organization entirely. It does bring a lot of change to the organization. So economic forces are the strongest forces for change of the organization or within the organization. The other driver of change is the customers' needs and their preferences. Um, People's lifestyles and how they shop, work, and spend their leisure times are forever changing. Since the advent of internet, these changes have been occurring at significantly the faster rate. Well, actually, we understand that customer is the boss, customer is the king, he's always right. And this is true because customers are the people who bring revenue to the organization. So that is why organization has always will always have to align their services and product with the needs and preferences of the customer. So we need to have a good marketing intelligence system. We need to have a good customer relationship system, which actually gives us the perspective from the customer, their needs, their changing lifestyles, and their changing preferences. People in the rural areas have now the likings for the products which were previously liked by the urban areas. So this is all because of this whole social media. This is all because of the internet technology, that people's lifestyle and their preferences are being changed. But we need to bring changes in the organization with the changing needs and wants of the customer, because we have to come up with a service which is liked by the customer. We have to come up with a product which is liked by the customers, and changes in the product and the custom and the services means that we have to change the procedures. We have to change the way we think, the way we work, and the way we deliver, and the way we operate in the market. Well, again, we are running with the technology at the pace where everything is possible. As I told you in the previous lectures as well, that the world is becoming efficient and effective because of this technology. We are coming from big machines to the desktops, and then from the desktops to the laptops, from the laptops to the palm tops and small little mobiles. We've got computers everywhere. We have got technologies everywhere, and we have to get adjusted with the technology. We have to learn using the technology in order to survive in the competitive market. New high-tech systems and devices have completely changed how commercial enterprises do business and interact with other entities in the marketplace. New business models such as virtual collaborations, outsourcings are only possible today thanks to the internet and ultra high speed communication. So without technological change, our business leaders would still be dictating correspondence to human beings, who would then type them out and arrange for them to be distributed to the relevant people, wasting an incredible amount of time and resources. I've already given you an example. For example, like we were working on a manual based system, now we are working on a digital based system. So as soon as I you upload your assignments, it reaches to me through KCMS. As soon as I upload an assignment, it reaches to you. As soon as I upload the marks, it reaches to you. As soon as you register yourself, opt for the courses, it reaches to me. So this is how things have become easier. Initially we would do it manually. Students would come to the offices, they would submit their registration form to the advisors, then the advisor would use to sign it on the paper, then it used to go to the director's office and to the exam sections, and it was a lengthy process which we used to follow. But now, because of this technology, this automation system, everything has become possible with a click of a button. So this technological change has brought a lot of difference to the organization's working. It has actually made people used to with the technology. The cyberphobes had to change themselves. Banking is the biggest example. A lot of people were downsized because they were cyberphobes. They did not know how to use this technology. But gone is the time when we have people in the market who do not know the technology, because the next generation, actually, obviously they're born with the computers, so they know how to use it well. But the generation which is at the top, they have also learnt it because there is no other option. If you want to be effective and efficient, you have to have this technology in the organization. If you pick up a company from 1970s market and you bring it into today's market without the technological change, the company is not going to survive, obviously. It's because efficiency and effectiveness is the philosophy of management. It is achieved because of technology, and when we have this ultra speed communication, naturally people have this ability to achieve efficiency and effectiveness. So this technology is not a solution, but it obviously is an enabler to reach to this efficiency and effectiveness. And this AI will change everything. Artificial intelligence has actually changed things, but it will change to a larger extent. If you go to the company in Japan, you'll find robotics there. The intelligent minds have been embedded into the software, and then software is basically used to work as a managers in the organization. So this technology is the biggest driver of change. I mean, economic forces are the strongest, but this technology is also one of the strongest forces that drives the change in the organization. The other driver of change is increased global competition. Well, if a new rival comes onto the scene with completely different commercial behavior, the other players may have to adapt, especially if that competitor is successful in gaining the market share. A market, as I told you, is a slice, and everybody wants to have a bigger slice of this market share. And if somebody is penetrating into the market with the technology, and that technology works to its advantage, naturally people will have to benchmark themselves with the technology which a company is introducing into the industry. And that this is how the competitor basically brings the change in the organization. If the company is leading you, if it is locking in your customers towards themselves, and they are locking out your customer, they are weakening your customer base, then naturally you have to identify what is happening. You need to understand what different that competitor is doing which you are not doing. That can be in terms of using new technology, that can be in terms of different procedures, that can be in terms of innovative product ideas, that can be in terms of different marketing strategy, that can be in terms of many other things, that can be in terms of different production plant, that can be in terms of good human resource. So whatever the competitor is doing, and if for example if it is doing for its development, it is working as a competitive advantage, then you need to understand what actually they are doing, and then you have to adjust yourself in order to compete with them. So this is how increased global competition or the competitor is going to drive you towards the change. So because industry is a kind of a place where every company wants to take a lead, every company wants to take a competitive advantage, and there is a stiff and a cutthroat competition, and that stiff and cutthroat competition requires you to always be vigilant and do whatever the new companies are doing, or have to lead the way the industry or the companies behave. And this is how this is the only way possible to survive in the ever-changing competitive markets. The other driver of change are the rules and regulation. It is actually the government. When companies are faced with new legislation or rules imposed by the relevant regulatory authority, they need to do two things. One, comply with them. Two, adapt so that they may continue to thrive. This is so important because if you're working in a certain country, you need registration. And if you need registration, you need to follow the law of the land. And registration is so important because the rights of the companies can be protected only if you are registered. And there are many countries who will not allow you to do the business if you're not aligning your procedures, your rules and regulations, and your policies with the legislation of the country. So you don't have any options. You need to comply with them. And the other thing is that you need to adapt to the new situation. That this is so important. Either you have to change or you have to adapt to them because you want to thrive in that industry. You want to do the business in that country, and you have to do it in order to protect your legal rights. The organizational performance comprises the actual output or results of an organization as measured against intended goals and objectives. In other words, organizational performance can be understood by how well an organization is doing to achieve its goals. It is very important for the owners or managers of an organization to know the performance rate of their organization to be able to know what changes they can introduce. Without the knowledge of performance, it will be difficult for the executives of the organization to know when exactly changes are needed in the organization. You see, performance seems to be a very complex concept. More attention needs to be given to how performance is assessed. Superior performance means that the work is done effectively and efficiently, since this is the philosophy of management. Even otherwise, performance can be defined as it is the product of ability and motivation. Ability is basically the skill to do the work, or the knowledge to do the work, and willingness is basically the readiness to do the work. There are some people who may know how to do the work, but they may not be ready to do the work, and there are some people who are ready to do the work, but they may not know how to do the work. So um, what it means is that superior performance will be the one which is done effectively and efficiently. And organizational performance refers to a long-range effort to improve an organization's problem-solving capacity and its ability to cope with changes in its external environment with the help of eternal or internal behavior scientist practitioners, or change agents as they are sometimes called. The change agents are the most important people because they are the people who actually motivate people. They are the people who actually works on the behavior shaping of people towards the change organization is adapting to. So organizational performance is all about goal accomplishments through the transformation of inputs into outputs. From a content perspective, performance is all about economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. It brings out the relationship between effective and a minimal cost, the outcome and achieved outcome, between realized and effective cost, which obviously is called efficiency. So deficient performance, on the other side, may be the basis for the management of organization to start the process of change. This may be reflected from the profit margin or market share of the organization. When the management of an organization is faced with this situation, they will start the search for better management or organizational strategy that will be able to improve the situation of the organization. After these changes have been carried out, it will now be the time the effectiveness of the change or on the organization. It will be important to consider performance measures and performance referent. Performance measure is a matrix along with organization can be gauged. Some management of organization use profit, stock price, and sales to get better understanding of well-being of the organization. It's also an indicator. The sales and the stock price. This is a good indicator of assessing the organizational performance. Performance referent is a benchmark used to make sense of organizational standing along a performance measure. It is very important for the manager to rely on various kinds of performance measures to check the success of their organization. This is something very important because sometimes the organization have to measure its performance in order to improve. So they'll have to set the indicators for performance. Now see, how does it change, this organizational change affect the performance, or what are the effects of organizational change on performance? The concept of organization change comes from the nature and environment of the organizations. Change basically means series of events which supports the process of development in organization. Organizational change generally means right sizing, new development, and change in technologies, rescheduling operations and major partnerships. Organization change includes mission changes, strategy changes, operational changes, as I've told you in the previous slides, technological changes, changing the attitudes and behaviors of personnel, counter resistance from different employees of companies, and align them to strategic direction of the organization. Well, there are two elements which can make an employee to perform well. There is the tangible and intangible element. The tangible element deals with recruiting the right person for a given task, having the right tools for the job, good physical working environment, and have an appropriate reward for job. Intangible elements range from the easily definable and such as working for a highly respected organization is highly personal, such as feeling recognized and having a sense of achievement. A good leadership and line management have the most profound impact on performance of people. It makes sense of how good physical working conditions work to the advantage of the organization, but these will make less difference than good leadership. Soldiers, for example, have to work in dire conditions, but good leaders ensure they continue to be loyal and motivated despite the physical environment. And change affect performance at the individual, team, and organizational level. Individuals learn through curiosity and experimentation. Teams learn by encouraging diversity of ideas and input. Organizations learn by disciplines and continuous improvement and experimentation. When a change occurs, good things happen. Individuals have a more robust life and are more committed to work. Teams are more productive and organizations and competitive. Learning is employees' responsibility. It is not enough to say that someone else should learn. Each person is accountable to oneself. And though that person accountability should take responsibility of learning, this requires making choices, seeking consequences, and taking corrective action so that each cycle of behavior is better than the last. Now, as far as the employee performance is concerned, it's vital for the success of every organization and profitability in this dynamic environment. Nowadays, organization requires such type of employees who contribute more to their job scope and far from goal expectation. Most of the organization managing with contemporary challenges put more emphasis on employees' performance. According to some of the researchers and authors, service firms like banking sector invest more on their workforce to maintain long-term relationships with them and to increase their performance along with job satisfaction. Downsizing, mergers, innovations, and restructuring of organization usually decrease employees' performance. In addition to that, task quantity and quality, changing locations and time constraints radically affect the work life of employees. Nowadays, many companies are facing current challenges and need to put more concentration on increasing employees' performance. Hence, to concentrate in valuable performance, managers need to let employees have more power to design their jobs and roles. Thus, employees will find their jobs more fit between employees' needs, skills, and values. The deficiencies of employees' performance will be overcome by effective leadership, communication, motivation, employees' development, tolerance to change, procedural justice, and organizational culture. Some of the following effects may occur on employees' performance due to organizational change. One is the mental stress. Organizational change, particularly when the changes are broad in reach and several changes occur simultaneously, it results to increased stress-related prescriptions by employees. There may be many causes for increased stress levels, including perceived injustice or unfairness as well. Lack of timely communication by management or fear of future changes as well. The other is loss of loyalty. Many companies look to salaries and benefits as the first places to cut back when looking to make changes that involve cost saving. When this happens, it is inevitable that some employees will leave the company to seek employment elsewhere. The company that remain, whether they stay voluntarily or because they could not find employment elsewhere, are often resentful. Motivation decreases, job performance, taking job performance along with it. Employees lose their company loyalty and may even become angry enough to purposefully sabotage the company. It's called social loafing. Increased time away from work when organization changes are announced, particularly when there is downsizing involved, people generally divide into one or two groups. Those who will attempt to control their fate and those who want to get out before the changes occur. The group taking control will usually dig in, increase their productivity, hit their deadlines, and do everything they can to shine in front of their managers, hoping they will sail through the changes with their job intact. The remaining employees, however, may cope with the changes by avoiding them. You may see these employees taking longer lunch hours, coming in late and leaving earlier, or simply not coming into the office at all. Whether they are looking for new jobs, looking at Sunday's newspaper, or simply avoiding the offices, expect to see an increase in employees' sick days while you carry out the organizational change. And the other thing is life changes. Some organization changes require major restructuring, resulting in sweeping life changes for many employees. Typical changes that negatively impact a portion of employees are salary cuts, loss of benefits, downgrading in job positions, job loss or relocation to another city, state or country. These can be devastating changes to employees, particularly those who are supporting families. The best way to handle these changes while keeping the morale up of the remaining and unaffected employees is by communicating with all the employees every step of the way and treating the affected employees with fairness and compassion. So students, this is where we come to the end of this lecture. If you feel like to ask any questions, please drop it in the comments box. You can send me the WhatsApp message as well, and we can arrange the interactive session as well. Thank you so much.